All right, today we're going to do a Should You Read for this series. This is the Massa and Platy detective sci-fi series by Malka Older, which starts with the mimicking of known successes. I just love these covers. I think they're absolutely stunning. I actually went out of my way to find copies of the first two. I was gifted the third one by the publisher. I've been reading these since they came out, and it's been a slow burn, but I'm really loving them. So we're going to do a Should You Reads. I think it deserves it. So let's find out if this is the right series for you, spoiler free. Starting with, what is this series? So this series at its core is a sci-fi detective series. It's not like a murder mystery series, although sometimes people do die. But it's a lot like Sherlock Holmes and Watson, I think. I have never read the original Sherlock Holmes and Watson's, but I've watched some of the adaptations, and I've watched a whole host of serialized TV that is inspired by the whole, we got a duo, one's a little bit deductive and neurodivergent and weird, and one's the heart of the operation, and sometimes they're love interests, and sometimes they're not, etc. I've watched this so many times, we all have. This is a classic feeling thing. And so each of these is a little mystery that we're solving with Massa and Platy, who we'll get into, on Jupiter. Not a moon of Jupiter, but on Jupiter. And that's where we get the sci-fi elements of this series. And when I picked this up, I was really apprehensive for two reasons. One, I've read another series by Malka Older where I have a Should You Reads for it. It's the Sentinels trilogy. It starts with Infomocracy. If you want interesting world building, you really just have to read Malka Older. Like, that's just going to be my recommendation, period. But that one was more like Born Identity, espionage adjacent. It didn't quite work for me, like that action-packed sense. The pacing was weird. But I love Malka Older's ideas, so I was down to try something else. But then number two is I am not a mystery person. I don't like the mystery genre in general, at least not in my books. I've watched, like I said, a whole host of serialized TVs that's just like a mystery every episode. But in terms of reading, I don't pick up thrillers. I don't pick up mysteries. I have read one Agatha Christie. Like, it's not my well-read part of myself. But I've read the first one, and I really liked Massa and Platy. That was the core for me. And I kept going, and now it's one of my, like, cozy series. I really love the audiobooks, and that's probably my main recommendation, is I adore the audiobooks. I think it's a little jarring at times, because I think it's kind of like I don't know if it's a British narrator, but it's an accent that I'm not used to in the United States, paired with Spanish words, and it's not a Spanish accent. So sometimes some of the words get said in a very weird accent, and it's a little weird to me, but it works in my head because this is far future. And languages evolve and change, and so do accents. So it's not like this isn't accurate. Like, this is 100 years from now, if not more. So that's what this is, and that's kind of my baggage that I came into this with, is I was scared of this combination of things, but it really grew on me. And I think part of that is also when this tile works for me, when this archetype trope of the neurodivergent character and like the heart of the operation blend together, and you potentially add in a second chance romance element, it can either really work or really not work for me. The example of it really working for me in TV is Bones. Bones is one of my favorite series of all time. I might have made a Bones tag. I think I did. I don't make tag videos very often. And this isn't quite like the level of how much I love Bones, but I have buy-in to the relationship and the dynamics between Massa and Platy, and that's a big momentum driver for me in my love of the series. That paired with Malka Older's amazing world building style. So let's get into that real quick, because the world building, I think that's what makes this special compared to other detective sci-fi mystery or fantasy mystery things we have around these days. So as I already said, this is on Jupiter. It's not on a moon of Jupiter. People do live on one of the moons of Jupiter. They have these platforms, because if you don't know, Jupiter it's a gas giant. Like, there's no solid land. So they had to make these stations, and I still don't actually know how they stand up. I have no idea, and I don't care that much about that architectural part of it. And they live on these stations. They can travel by train car between them. But what it means is, like, they have to find interesting ways to communicate. We don't have cell phone towers. We don't have satellites. We're here because they ran away from Earth, which they destroyed. And Platy is an academic, and she works at a university as a classicist, and their whole purpose is to try and mine data from classic literature, classic art, to figure out how did Earth's ecosystem work before they destroyed it so that they can maybe repopulate Earth with life again. So that's like part of her whole thing. and Masa is a detective. Just period, end of story. She's a detective. And you start off in the first book with them re-entering each other's lives again to solve the mystery of the death of this one individual on one of these stations. I'm getting distracted by Masa and Plady because I just love their dynamic so much. But it's just really interesting that they're so focused on going back to Earth, but I'm so interested in how they live on Jupiter, not just with the tech they come up with, but the living arrangements, how society has to work because of how resource poor they used to be for a while. I think it's really fascinating, all the things we would take for granted that would cost money that are just available to people. In that sense, it almost feels like a utopia that resulted from a dystopian situation. And so I find it cozy for me. I mean, yes, we're solving, crimes and things like that, but that world building sort of thing feels pretty cozy to me. And so I like being in that world, and I do love Masa and Plady. The only downside for me and my tastes is that the first chapter prologue of every book is from Masa's perspective, and boy, would I love to have more Masa perspective. But the rest of it is always Plady. Plady is the Watson character, and I think that's by design. I'm not positive, but I feel like this is actually potentially how the Sherlock Holmes stories are also kind of chronicled. It's through the eyes of Watson and less so through Sherlock. And like part of that is if you were with the character that's making all the intuitive leaps, you would figure out the answers sooner. That's not why I want to be with Masa. I think the pacing in which you get answers to the question and how the mystery unfurls is pretty good. I think that's done fairly well. I have no concerns with the pacing. I just want to be with Masa because I think they have issues and I want to see them work them out. Like whenever I get a taste of a Masa chapter, I was like, oh, you're so interesting. Now, Plady is great. And I generally like following Plady. I think she's a very reasonably flawed but likable individual. Sometimes her anxiety gets her in her head, which relatable, sometimes a little exhausting for me because it's like, I already deal with this all the time over here, Plady. I don't need yours. But that said, she's a very relatable, caring, likable individual. Definitely having to deal with her worldview subtly changing as she keeps doing these things with Masa. And so, like I said, in some ways, that's like my one negative, is I wish it was truly dual POV. I think I understand the stylistic choice for it not to be, but it's something I would really love. It would bring me endless amounts of joy. So yeah, and I really like that although it is kind of the hints of a second chance romance, their platonic bond is also very strong. Like this is definitely a scenario where they are able to communicate with each other in ways that they can't with other people. It has their special bond. I love a special bond. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can be just platonic. And I really like how they work together, their strengths and weaknesses to get something done. It's what I like about shows like Bones. I really enjoy it here. The last couple things I'd like to talk about is, although I think the pacing is good, I think if I'm comparing it to those TV shows, because these are all episodic books, like you want to read them in order because at least the relationship development is linear. Unlike things like Bones where you have a whole cast of characters, it's primarily just Masa and Plady. So you don't get that B plot. And sometimes I like the B plot. I like a background B plot that matters but doesn't matter that much. That said, I still hope I get a whole host of these books. Especially because I think it's thematically doing some interesting things. I'm not really like picking these up for their thematic qualities, but the discussion we're having around academia and where we're choosing to put our resources and how we're choosing to problem solve is very interesting. Because since Plady's an academic, we do just get to see insight into a lot of academic issues, at least in books 2 and 3. I can't actually even remember if book 1's really related to academia, because it's been like 3 years since I've read it, maybe 2 years. But the other two are very tied to academic institutions, their pros, their cons. And in some ways, even those are a little quote-unquote utopian while falling into the same flaws of our academic systems. And I know that's by design. And personally, as someone who's been in academia and is very jaded by the institutions, it was really nice. And the last thing, I will show you guys, is I don't normally buy novellas, okay? Because they're expensive. But these are so pretty. And I really love them. I don't even read these with my eyes. I listen to the audiobooks. But they're so pretty. So this is The Mimicking of Known Successes, by far the shortest. And then we have The Imposition of Unnecessary Obstacles. And then the most recent one, The Potency of Ungovernable Impulses. Like, they're just so pretty. And I'm just so happy I have all of them. And I will keep collecting them. And I'm hoping it's a series that gets as much popularity as The Singing Hills Cycle and Murderbot, because I think it deserves that. And I think they're really fun. So that's my should you read for this series. Have you read it? Do you like it? Do you have other spoiler-free questions that I can answer down below? Per usual, this is a spoiler-free place, so if you do inadvertently put spoilers in the comments, I will be deleting that because I want this to be a safe space for everyone. And if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, I know there's no Jupiter, because whenever I ask for Jupiter, we get Saturn. How about, I don't even know. Is there like a magnifying glass for like detectives? Let's do that. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.